Hi everybody, welcome back. I have got one of my favourite books that we've started reading, and we are all the way up to chapter 7. And I'm actually on my sofa today. I've got a nice, you can't see, I've got a nice cosy blanket. I have got a lovely cup of tea. Perfect. Oh, lovely. And today I'm going to have a bit of a readathon, and I'm going to start by carrying on with this book. So, I should just tell you that this book is written by the amazing Kat Weldon, and you can see her photo just up there. And this is the front cover of the book, and I will post a link underneath this video to where you can buy the book if you would like a copy. And I should also point out that this video is made with the very kind permission of a fabulous publisher called Macmillan Children's Books, and I will post a link to their website in the description box. So I definitely recommend that you check them out because they have got some amazing stories on there, and they have very kindly given their permission for me to make this video and to have it on YouTube for a short amount of time whilst schools are closed. So let's get cracking. Chapter 7 is called A Very Dodgy Warrior. Dust motes floated past Whetstone's nostrils, twinkling in the sunlight as he fought down a sneeze. He rubbed his nose and peered over his beam. Flea and Flay were in no hurry to leave the stables, and until they left, Whetstone was stuck. No matter how keen he was to get out and explore Asgard, it still didn't seem possible that he was really here. He pinched himself on the arm just to check if he was dreaming. Ouch! One of the girls looked around. What was that? Whetstone froze, convinced that the noise had given him away. A shadow fell across the doorway. Oh, it's you. Flea tossed her plaits. We got your message. What do you want? That's not very nice, said the shadow. Whetstone flinched. He recognised the voice. It belonged to Valley's father. Whetstone gripped tightly onto the beam. A thought occurred to him. If Valley's family live in Asgard, would that make Valley a god too? Valley, god of stroppiness and an unhealthy interest in knives. Whetstone wondered who Valley's dad might be. There were lots of Norse gods, and Whetstone had never really bothered to pay attention to their stories, even though the angry bogey had demonstrated an unusual interest in their comings and goings. It was not as if he had ever expected to find himself face to face with one of them. Holding his breath, Whetstone cautiously leaned over the beam to try and get a glimpse of what was happening below. The light dimmed and then brightened as the figure stepped through the stable door. I was just checking up on my two favourite people, Flea sniffed. Yeah, right. Where have you been? Flay said sulkily. I missed your stories. And where's the set of ivory runes you promised us after we found out where Frigg's magic cup was? Yeah, it wasn't easy getting Frigg's servant to tell us. I can't believe she sent it to Crud, Flea sniggered. What a dump. What did you want it for, anyway? I'm sure there are easier ways to find out the future. Whetstone gripped onto the beam, unable to believe that Awfulrick's magic cup really belonged to the goddess Frigg. Lightfinger was right. It could tell the future. Wait, Flay said slowly. Did you get in trouble again? I'm hurt you would think such a thing, the shadow purred as he approached the girls. I've just been visiting a family. Flay fiddled with her plait. Where is Valley? Flea glared at her sister. Oh, you know Valley. He'll be lurking around somewhere. Flay giggled. Whetstone craned his neck as the man passed under his beam. He saw a flash of golden hair before a wooden post blocked his view. So what's been going on here? The shadow sidled closer to the two girls. Nice haircut, Flay, he said with a snicker. He added with a snicker. It's all Lotta's fault, she wailed. Lotta? You know, the one with the stinky dog. She's a class 3 Valkyrie like us. For now. Yeah. She always ruins everything, Flea complained. Last week she got thrown off her horse when we were practicing our attack formation. Then she forgot the words to Svensson the Selfish when we were performing in front of all of Valhalla, Flay said with a sniff. Yeah, she called him Svensson the Shellfish. And now she's brought a dodgy warrior back from the battle. Whetstone gripped the beam tightly, his palms suddenly clammy. Dodgy? The man asked. How? Flea glanced at her sister. Well, you know we're supposed to bring back the best warriors. So most of us went for the big, burly ones covered in blood and scars. I even managed to get a berserker, and they're nuts. Zerk, the man agreed. Flea crossed her arms. But not Lotta. She turns up back at Asgard with this funny-looking boy. He wasn't even wearing any armour. I don't think he was a real hero. Flea put her hands on her hips. I don't think he was a real Viking, Flea snorted. We'll never get made Class 2s with her slowing us down, Flea added. I mean, I got Yorick the Snot Muncher. Yorick the Snot Muncher, for Thor's sake. Who did she bring back? Wagner the Weedy? Dagfinn the Drip? Bjorn the Boring? Whetstone tried very hard not to be offended. He plucked a fat earwig from a nearby joist and dropped it onto Flea's head. He might not be a hero, but that was just rude. Where was the battle? The man asked. Whetstone could hear the urgency in his voice. Flea twitched as the earwig scrambled down her plait and tucked itself inside her collar. Dunno. Everywhere down there looks the same to me. The Battle of Big Helmets. It was on the coast, 2 villages over from Crud. We were supposed to turn left at the cliffs, remember? Flea gave her sister a funny look. Are you all right? Flea paused, pulling at her tunic. I'm fine. Ah! The fat earwig pinged out of her collar and launched itself towards Flea's face. Flea threw out her hand and batted it to the floor. She stamped down hard. Even Whetstone winced. The man stepped forward. Whetstone could see the back of a tall, slender man wearing a fine red tunic. He leaned further out over the beam. What did Lotta's warrior look like? Flea let go of her collar and tossed her hair, one plait nearly hitting her sister in the face. He was young, like our age, weedy-looking, blonde hair, kind of dirty, with a cloak. Flea sniggered, wiping her boot on the floor. Odin only knows where she got him from. A stable, maybe? The man asked. Whetstone felt like a trickle of ice had just run down his spine. This was bad. Did he have anything with him? A cup, perhaps? Flea wiped her hand on her skirt. Is that why you want him? You think he's got Fregg's cup? The man shifted, golden lights appearing in his hair. Maybe, he straightened up. Did you see him enter Valhalla with the other heroes? Flea crossed her arms. We didn't stick around to watch. I dropped mine off by the steps of Valhalla. Odin was there, so I assume they were all resurrected as usual. Mine started to glow blue, like they're supposed to, Flea added. The man leaned forward. I would very much like to meet this mysterious boy, hero or not. How about you find him for me? I suspect he never made it to Valhalla. Flea rolled her eyes. We don't work for you. We didn't get caught last time, but doing little favours for tricksters like you is against the Valkyrie code. The man turned, his sharp nose and collar-length hair silhouetted against the sunlight. I could make it worth your while. He paused for a moment and then asked, do you remember what happened when Sif got her hair cut off? Yeah, by you as a joke. It wasn't very funny. Some people need to lighten up. Do you remember how I fixed it again? You got the dwarves to make her new hair out of gold, and you almost lost your head. The man waved the detail away as insignificant. I could do it again, replace that plait of yours with shining strands of living gold. Or in your case, silver. Flea's eyes widened. You do that? For me? He shrugged. Maybe. You see, what I like about you two girls is that you can see the bigger picture. Most people are caught up in the little details, but you're different. You can look ahead, and if you want to get ahead, it's useful to have friends who don't mind risking theirs. You're weird, Loki, Flea grinned. Whetstone felt a pit open in his stomach. Loki! Vali's dad was Loki the trickster. The angry bogey had loved to tell stories about Loki, about the trouble he had caused and the terrible tricks he played against gods and giants. Just find me the boy, Loki instructed. What are you going to do with him? Desperate to hear every word, Whetstone leaned dangerously far over the beam. Another spider climbed into his ear, and Whetstone shook his head, trying to knock it out. The movement left him unbalanced, his fingers slipping on the wood. With a splintery crash, Whetstone tumbled off the beam and landed on the floor, right in between the twins. Clouds of dust and ancient horse drippings flew into the air. Whetstone felt like a tight band was fastening around his chest as he tried not to breathe in the foul stench. Under their matching coatings of dust, Flea and Flay wore identical expressions of shock. Only Loki had escaped unscathed, having leapt out of the way in time. Whetstone stared up into his handsome face. His scarred mouth was pulled into a laugh, but his eyes were dark and cold. Whetstone! Flea and Flay both screamed in unison. He's human! He's alive! The two girls threw themselves towards the stable door. Scold! But before they could reach the door, a bright flash of green light filled the room. Whetstone flinched, remembering Loki's treatment of Vali. The girls' screams were abruptly cut off. Flea and Flay were motionless, encased in green light. Their eyes and mouths open mid-scream, their feet hanging in mid-air. Loki turned away from them and pulled Whetstone to his feet in one easy movement. So you made it out of crud then, he purred with a smile. And still alive? How surprising. Whetstone pulled himself away from the grinning man. What did you do to them? He pointed at the twins. I froze them. I won't be needing them now. Whetstone backed away deeper into the stables. How do you know my name? What did Vali tell you? I don't need Vali to find things out. Loki smiled more broadly, the scars stretching his lips, and Whetstone vaguely remembered a particularly gruesome story about Loki having his mouth sewn shut. You would be amazed at the things I know about you. Whetstone tried not to stare. I know you grew up in Drott. Loki inched closer. And I know you long to be more than just the unremarkable child that you are. The man crept forward on silent feet. I know you, Whetstone, and I know you're in big trouble if anyone catches you. Are you aware of what happens to living humans who come to Asgard? Whetstone didn't trust himself to speak. He shook his head. Niflheim. Whetstone was confused. What's Sniffelheim? No, Niflheim, snapped Loki. You'll spend the rest of eternity in the land of mist and shadows. Oh, I thought you said Sniffelheim, like the land of sniffles and drippy noses. I don't think you understand the graveness of the situation you are in, Loki hissed. His shape blurred for a moment, and then he regained his normal appearance. Whetstone gaped before remembering that Loki was a shapeshifter. More memories of the angry bogey's story flickered across Whetstone's mind. Loki was a liar and a shapeshifter and very, very clever. It was never entirely clear to Whetstone why the gods let Loki stay in Asgard with them. He wasn't a god himself, but a fire giant, and therefore able to do certain types of magic. But he always seemed to be getting into trouble. Whetstone gulped. He had thought Awful Rick was dangerous. Whetstone tried not to blink. It was a bit like trying to outstare a snake. His eyes started to water. Join me in the next video for the final part of this chapter.